Welcome to the Black Delegates podcast. Today's date is May the 13th, 2018. I almost said what time it was, but that is not important. I'm not doing the voicemail. Let's see. G is not with us again.
You leave the time on the voicemail?
Sometimes at work. Yes, I do.
Don't you know that it automatically does that to where
No, work ones don't. You got to press a button. I don't want to press the button to do it. So no.
That's annoying. I hate people that say what time it is on the voicemail because it already tells me. If I want to know, I can find out.
Yeah, probably. If you look through missed calls or whatever. But that's too much work. You could just have it right there. Hey, it's 3:15. But whatever. Now I'm going to have to cut all this out. Thanks a lot.
No, leave it in there. That was the whole point.
Okay.
Make it interesting.
So
I wanted to interrupt you.
Anyway, correcting me across the way from me is Ghetto Phenom. What's up?
Phenom is here. Happy Sunday, which is the day we're recording, but happy whatever day it is that you're listening. We are glad that you are a part of the Black Delegates family.
All right. And the walking mistake himself, Paul.
Oh, man, y'all killing me already. Paul. What's up, guys? What's up, fellas?
Always, man. And I am the perfect one, the Black Ryan. All right.
I don't know about that.
All right, y'all. So I guess now we got a turnaround time of like 5 days. So how was your 5 days in Blackness, Phenom?
Man, my 5 days in Blackness were pretty good. It's pretty wonderful. And it was interesting. I told you guys last week that I was going to a graduation. Had to go to Kentucky State University, where my youngest sister was graduating college. And so, though I was looking forward to seeing her graduate and going down there and visiting and cheering and all of that, I was lamenting the actual graduation ceremony because, as Paul talked about last week, graduation ceremonies are usually trash. They're usually long, they're usually boring, and, nobody really enjoys graduation ceremonies. So let me set the scene for this past Saturday. Again, I was at Kentucky State University, and I walked into the gym. I got there early, so my sister told me the gym could get filled, and make sure you're there early or they're going to put you in a overflow room type of deal. So I got there early, started at 9, I got there at 8. I walk in, the gym is hot, even though it wasn't even packed yet. I'm like, oh, it's about to be hot. It was in the gymnasium, so it was bleachers. And I don't understand why bleacher makers, make bleachers for like people who are like
2 feet tall? 2 feet tall, man.
Yeah. So I'm 6'3", and I'm cramped up in these little bleachers, and it's hot, and I'm just thinking, oh, this is going to be a terrible, terrible day. But shout out to Kentucky State. The Thoroughbreds is probably the best graduation that I've ever been to.
What?
And the reason it was the best graduation that I've ever been to is precisely why y'all hate graduations. It was lit.
Oh,
they let the people dance. They encouraged the people to get hype.
You're telling me the people did not withhold their applause until the very end?
They did not.
At this HBCU?
You mean no one followed instructions?
Well, this is a crazy thing about it.
They probably didn't even ask that. They probably didn't request that. They were like, we know you're not going to do that.
This is the crazy thing. So when I first got there, like I said, it was hot and it was small. And I'm talking to my dad, and he told me last year he had went to see my sister's boyfriend graduate. And he said they told them, hold your applause until the end. Do not, applaud until everybody's been given their degree. And so, of course, people don't do that. Even at mixed schools or white schools, you're going to cheer for your kid.
Yeah, you are.
So he said people began to cheer for their kids, and they literally started, like, kicking people out. Like, when people would stand up, like, they would send somebody to come and get them.
I like this.
And so he said last year, like, people were standing up, they would come kick them out, and then all of a sudden the people started getting upset. And so when they would say their kid, like, the whole family would get up, cheer, and then just walk out. So I'm like, whoa, like, this is crazy. So he said that the last president had been fired, not for that, but they had replaced the president, so this new guy, this was his first year. So I'm going into it thinking, again, it's about to be whack. But, I mean, it was just straight lit. They had a lady from YouTube, like a YouTube sensation, Callie Davis, was the singer. And the first couple songs she sang, they were church songs, but like they were all right. You know, somebody told me, oh, she about to kill it. And she did the songs, and I'm like, it's all right. But like later, the last song she did with their choir, I'm talking about they had people on their feet jumping. They right before they handed out the degrees, the president got up and he was like, yo, I got a pop quiz for everybody. You know, I haven't reviewed the transcripts yet. And he's like, what do y'all do when y'all hear this? And they play like a rap song, and everybody got up and was dancing. This is right before they did the commencement. And they did that 4 times, 4 different songs like swag surfing and a bunch of other stuff to get you hyped.
I'm out on swag surfing altogether. That's
2018.
That's dope.
Right.
And anyway, so I've been going on long enough, but when they did the actual commencement part and they gave people the degrees, you know, probably a third of the people danced across. They did not care. They encouraged it. There was one lady who tried to say, you know, let's make sure we are professional. And the president came and talked over her and was like, hey, we going to do this right. You know, be energetic, applaud your people. And so even though some of the speakers went a little bit long or whatever, it still was the best graduation I've been to. Like, I forgot about that because the singing was so dope, the dancing was so hype, and the crowd was so into it. Like, it was great. And the thing is, it lasted an hour and 50 minutes. It started at 9 o'clock. It was over by 10:50. So shout out to Kentucky State University.
It started on time?
Shout out to my sister, Nicole. Yeah, it started right on time. It's supposed to start at 9. Started on time. Got out. I looked at the clock. And this isn't when they were winding up. This is when I was walking out. I looked at it. It was 10:50. I'm like, man, this is less than 2 hours. Everybody in there was like, yo, this is the dopest graduation I've done been to. So shout out to Kentucky State University. Other people, go look at, they streamed it online, so it's got to be online. Other schools need to look at what Kentucky State did. Let the people dance. Let the people get hype. Let the people cheer and have joy. That's all I got to say about that. And shout out to my sister Nicole who graduated.
Yeah, shout out to that. That's for real.
Shout out to Nicole, but yeah, it was school though. What about you, Paul? How was your week or 5 days of brothers?
Yeah, mine was not as hype as Ish's was, but yeah, I had a good week, man. So just hanging out with the family and stuff like that. But what I want to talk about in the week in brownness was I was bored last night and decided to watch Netflix, which I've had Netflix for like 2 years. I watch like maybe 1 or 2 shows on there a month tops. Usually I just watch The Office, actually, because I'm too lazy to actually find something I really want to get into because I know I won't have time to watch all of, like, binge watch. So I just watch, like, Office reruns because I'm totally trash. But anyway, just something easy to have in the background. But I watched this Rachel Dolezal documentary on Netflix. It's called The Rachel Divide. And you get the little pun there, The Rachel Divide on Netflix. And so I heard a little bit of chatter about it online, and so I was like, man, let me, it sounds interesting. And I need a topic for Week in Blackness, so let me just go ahead and see what this is about. And actually, I must say, it's definitely worth a check out. Check it out. I'm not saying it's great, but it is a pretty good documentary, and it does a pretty good job of like kind of telling her story from all sides. If you I know we've talked about Rachel on this show before. If you don't like Rachel Dolezal, there's definitely a lot for you to get upset about in this. And I mean, and there's people in here that are just straight roasting her. Like there's no shortage of people that they're being interviewed that are just lighting her up. I mean, there's like literally like at the end, like a 10-minute segment, which is all like different YouTube accounts of random people, expressing their feelings and their outrage at this lady. And so, I mean, don't think that this is like something where they're like trying to like sugarcoat her or make her sympathetic. It's not like that at all. Like they're letting her have it, and they're just kind of showing some of the stuff, and like that's questionable.
I will say, before you get into it, I will say it sounds like Paul is officially joining the Black Ryan Rachel Dolezal fan club.
She's totally unbelievable. Yeah, I'm not all the way there yet, but she has a slight bit of sympathy from me from the movie. I'll say that.
How was your week, Ryan?
Well, my week in Blackness, of course, with it being Mother's Day weekend, the wife said
Happy Mother's Day.
Yes, Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers.
All the moms.
And to all the others who are not mothers.
Nice.
My wife, she kind of was like, and I think, when was this? Saturday morning, I believe. She's like, hey, don't make a big deal out of Mother's Day. You know, I just want us to do something as a family. Or maybe it was late Friday night. And I was like, Sunday is Mother's Day? I had no idea. So that's how it started. And I'm just like, oh, dang. Because usually I got reminders like for this stuff set on my phone. For whatever reason, reminders not on there, but it says Mother's Day on the calendar. I usually got 2-week reminders, 1-week reminders, 2-day reminders. So I make sure because I got to send something to my mom too. So that didn't work out either, but I talked to her and she knows that I'm trash at sending her a gift even though I always buy her one. So it will be sent in the mail. It's on its way. But so my wife, she says that she wants to do something with the family. We kind of talked about the Magic House, and that sounded, that was too much. And then we talked about, maybe just going out for breakfast because we don't usually do that. We usually cook breakfast on Saturdays. But she said that she wanted to do that, and I was kind of I was a little upset because I take any opportunity I can to get away from these kids. So I wanted her to say like she wanted like a couples massage, or she wanted to, I don't care what, just anything where it didn't involve the kids. But after she said that the kids had to go, that kind of switched up my ideas. So I'm like, okay, fine. But we ended up going out for breakfast, and the establishment that we went to, family friendly environment, nothing fancy. We just went to Denny's, and the lady there, man, shout out to Angel at the Denny's. But her spirit was on 110. I have never felt in the presence of a real angel ever in my life. But she calmed me down a couple times because Trenton was tripping. I'm like, hold on, little bro. Like, you are too loud. Avery was like, all of a sudden, she didn't want to eat nothing. And the lady was just like, oh, Daddy, don't worry about it. I got it. Like, I'll bring you some goldfish, because Avery said she wanted some goldfish. And I'm like, we at a place to eat breakfast. Babe, like, you can't do goldfish. Like, can you just get something off this menu? She's like, I want goldfish. So she went and brought her some little goldfish in a bowl. But that lady was really nice, man. She was dope, and she catered to us the whole time we were there. Felt special. It was pretty cool. So shout out to her. She was black.
Did you tip her, though? That's the question. Did you tip her, though?
I was going to tip her anyway. But yes, I tipped her. Because, again, I tip my restaurant workers. Thank you very much. I didn't give her $200 like you would, Paul. But I did tip her. And then I guess the last little part of it's a 2-parter. That was about good customer service. This one's about bad. So on our way home today, my wife was just like, hey, don't really feel like cooking. And I'm like, I'm not finna cook because the Cavs game is on. So that means we going out to eat. Or we gonna stop and get something. Hey, that's how I do it, man. If she say she don't want to cook, if I don't really feel like cooking, I'll just buy something. It's not a big deal. It's worth my time. That's what I say. Is it worth my money? Is it worth my time? Usually, time wins. So, decided like, hey, real quick, we're going to stop at this White Castles. We go to the White Castles, order all this food, get up to the window. Old girl, she had checked us out before. She hadn't been there too many times. She gives me the receipt. I pay for it. I look at it, and I'm like, man, she got like I ordered like 12 burgers, and she gave me like 4. And this is like for my entire family. It's 5 of us. Trenton eats as much as a grown man at this point. He's almost 5. This dude his metabolism is crazy. So I knocked on the window. I'm like, hey, it's supposed to be like 12 on her, and you only got 4 on her. And she was like, oh, yeah, sorry about that. Then she fixed it. I looked at it again, and I was like, oh, dang. I was like, well, this is also supposed to be a 10-piece mozzarella stick, but you got 3 on her. And she's like, oh, okay. So I looked at my wife this time, and I'm like, man, she ain't listening to nothing I said. But it usually don't happen at White Castles. White Castle's good about getting your order right. So she comes back, and she's like, so do you want to just buy 2 more 3-piece mozzarella sticks? And I was like, yeah. I said I could do that, but it's going to cost me like 20 cents more. Not a big deal on the money, but I was like, it's the principle of it all. You know what I'm saying? Like, you really should just give me my 10-piece and then just be like, it's cool. I messed it up twice already. But she didn't.
Right.
So she says, okay, hold on. She goes, she talks to the lady. White lady comes to the window, and she's like, yeah, we would have to refund your order. It'll take 5 to 7 business days probably for the money to go back in there. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. Yeah, probably not true, but at the same time, even the fact that my money wouldn't go back on my card immediately, or you just cancel that transaction, is also ridiculous. So I was like, fine. Just charge me for 2-3 pieces. I'm in the whole 20 more cent. Even though not a big deal, but it's the principle of it. She gives me my food. Now we sit there for 10 minutes. Keep in mind, I got kids in the car, man. They've been in the car all this time. We've been at church. We've been driving around. I had to make a couple stops to make they hungry. Avery's crying. You know, my daddy level was on 10. And she comes back to the window. She hands me 2 little skimpy bags. I look in there, and I said, "So you telling me this is 10 sandwiches and all the other stuff I ordered?" And then she was like, yeah. And I looked at her and I said, "It's not even no White Castles up in here. It's no sandwiches in here." And then she's like, "Oh." And she like kind of starts laughing. And then she goes back and comes, it took her another 10 minutes, man, to come bring me my sandwiches. And I just want to say,
wow.
Shout out to that girl. She sucked. Because I'm like, are you high right now while you working? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to be judging people like that, but you got blue hair, you got tats all over your neck and on your arms. You probably not going to be able to work nowhere else if you can't do this properly. So I'm going to need you to just be serious about it. You know what I'm saying? It was a lot of little laughter and stuff going on. I don't think it's funny. Like, just go ahead and give me my food so I can leave. I don't really want to be here that long. So, that was my week in Blackness, man. I hate for it to be something bad after Angel was a real angel, but, that girl sucked.
It's the yin and the yang, man. For every good experience, you got to have one bad experience to
so I'm sorry for that long story, man, but I had to tell that.
You, me, my long ass story.
Don't worry, I always edit yours out.
I think negative fast food experiences is like a way for God to tell you, like, you shouldn't be eating it no way. Because, like, I feel like whenever I eat too much fast food, I always go and have that type of experience, just a horrible experience. I'm like, I should not be eating this crap anyway.
I agree with that, actually. That's a good statement. Yeah, I agree. Fast food is no bueno for me.
I'll think about it. All right. So, let's get into the news, fellas.
All right.
Get it.
All right. So, we're getting back more and more information about what Russia was doing when they were meddling in our affairs during the 2016 election. So, it looks like it says the Facebook ads were mostly focused on racial discord. Paul, this is your story. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so this all came about through a USA Today article that came out this week. Basically, the Senate committee that's kind of investigating a lot of this kind of Russian, interference in the election, they basically put out, they had Facebook release like all the ads that were bought by basically the Russian government, dealing with the Russia, with American issues, and put out there on Facebook and other social media platforms, so mainly Facebook. And so of the basically, I think they bought 3,500 ads in 2016. Basically, 2,000 of those 3,500 all how to deal with race, not in any particular particular slant. They were just basically trying to stir racial strife in the United States. And I must say, I think at least for my part, it seemed to have worked.
It worked, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the ads were focused on either kind of black, supporting Black Lives Matter or supporting cops. And so it was a lot of racial issues / cops, police brutality issues and things like that. But, how they did it was through Facebook, they know the kind of things you're interested in. So if you were interested, maybe in a legitimate group, say your local police force, or you're something like Blue Lives Matter or something, or Black Lives Matter. If you had likes and follows on certain groups that met these criteria, then they would target these little ads, and it was done really cheaply. I mean, I think they spent less than $1 million, or maybe just a little over $1 million on these 3,500 ads, and all total was basically 25 million people either liked them or viewed the ads and things like that. So must have had a huge impact on people. But that's basically what they were doing. So I just kind of wanted to throw this issue out there. What do you guys think about this? Do you think it really tipped the election? Do you think it caused low voter turnout amongst minority community, especially African Americans in various states, things of that nature? So I mean, what do you guys think about it?
Well, I believe the Russian playbook, because this isn't the first country that they've done that to. They've been doing that for a while, and really their whole agenda is to just cause discord. So I definitely do feel like it affected the election. The biggest bombshell on the election was when Comey came out around 2 days before the election and said they were reopening the investigation into Hillary Clinton, which he later said they were closing it or it wasn't open. But that gave a lot of people who were on the fence or skeptical about Clinton, that made them either stay home or vote for Trump. So I think that was the single biggest thing. But for the Russians, they just want to stir up stuff. So it wasn't, everybody thinks all this Russian collusion was them specifically trying to help Trump and putting out pro-Trump stuff. That wasn't it. They, like you said, they just wanted to get people angry. So we want to get the black people mad, so we're going to put out a bunch of stuff with the cops beating black people. We want to get the white people mad, so we're going to put out. So they just want to cause general discord, and it's been a rousing success because even after that election is over, we're still at ends with each other, and everybody hates each other. I haven't seen Congress this divided and divisive in a long time. So, yeah, by any measure, this whole Facebook thing has been a rousing success for the Russians.
Do you think it had more impact? It doesn't seem like white people didn't turn out to vote. They still turn out to vote. Maybe the Hillary people didn't turn out as much as they should have, but it seems like you can definitely see in the numbers the African American turnout. And a lot of that's probably because Obama wasn't running this time. It wasn't a black person. But do you think that I don't know, maybe is the African American community, the black community, more susceptible to this type of social media campaign, especially the younger people? I think that's kind of the more interesting thing, because I think older white people that probably would have clicked on these stupid ads, they probably still went out and voted. Maybe I don't know.
So you're saying that you don't think it actually affected voter turnout, though?
I think it did. I think it's saying the same thing too, right?
Okay,
right. What do you think,
Brian? But I'm asking, do you think it disproportionately affect, because they said in the article that I read, they were not it was of the 3,500 ads, it wasn't and the ones that dealt with race, it wasn't all let's make all these Black Lives Matter ads or these pro cop ads. They were doing either. It was tit for tat.
But it was either or, right. So that's why I'm saying I don't think that it affected the voter turnout, though, because if they're doing both sides, it's not going to push anybody either way. It's basically creating a turmoil and creating a narrative out here in the America's eye, I guess you could say. But other than that, I don't think it would made anybody go vote more than anybody else. So I don't think it had that effect. I think it'll have a lasting effect where we will kind of erode from the inside on this racial divide, because it's always been there. It's always been festering there. It just had a scab over it. And so basically all these things that have been happening that they've maybe called attention to more and more and more than we normally would have, then it just pulled the scab off. But it's always been there, and I don't think that's what made people go vote or not vote.
Well, it was a multifaceted attempt. So it wasn't just the Facebook ads. The Hillary Clinton thing was based off of leaked emails. They hacked the DNC email servers. That information got leaked out to the press.
Right after the Trump tape came out. Right after the Trump tape came out. Literally minutes after that.
Right. So I feel like more people who would have voted for Hillary probably stayed home because they were never going to vote for Trump. And Hillary's always had
issues,
some skepticism about her, just whatever. And so I feel like there was a large contingent of people who, because of these type of things on Facebook, because of Comey coming out, because of the leaked emails, people that said, you know what, I'm just not voting. And going back to Paul asking about the black people, I do think the fact that Obama wasn't on the ballot definitely made a difference. I mean, there was never going to be as many black people to vote that voted when Obama was running. But also there's just a lack of trust for Hillary Clinton in our community. And that's, for some stuff that she did and some stuff that was related to this whole Russian hacking collusion, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. I got something here from G. He says that it affected voting in rural communities. Definitely affected it in rural communities. That's something G would say. Shout out to G.
She's like, 2 words, rural. Miss you, G.
Man. That stuff is hilarious, man. It's literally 1 word, but every episode. Okay. Okay, well, I don't know. I guess we can leave it there. I don't know too much. We'll never be able to actually boil it down to what
leave it
what
there.
literal damage it came to. But it's a possibility. It's always a possibility.
Yeah. Just everybody get off Facebook. I'm off Facebook. I've been trying to get Ryan and Israel off Facebook for months now. It hadn't worked. But get off Facebook.
I told you, I took it off my phone. It's
you know
off
what?
my
But
phone.
I will say that whether or not you're on Facebook, like that still exists. It's just whether or not you know about the story. Every single story is not a fake news story. You know?
Yeah, no, I agree. You have
all
to
they're doing is
your
pumping
due
up the
diligence.
stories that are already in our culture.
Yeah.
All these things that we're talking about already happened, and that might be a good way to kind of segue into Ishmael's next topic. But by them pointing, just putting the magnifying glass on those particular stories, it's not changing anything. It's not affecting anything. It's really just showing you who you really are.
Yeah.
So, Ishmael, let's move into your topic, and we'll skip mine and come back to it, since I think that's a good segue.
All right. Well, for my story is actually a conglomeration of stories, and it seems like every week that we get on here, there's a new story, whether we do it or whether we just consider it. There's a new story about white folks calling the cops, usually on black folks or other people of color. And we've talked about some of them. We talked about the Starbucks case, of course. We talked about, what other ones did we talk about like that?
The golf ladies.
No, we didn't talk about them.
Oh, yeah,
we
did talk
considered
about them
them.
on the show. Yeah.
And the golf ladies, what that was, it was 5 women. They were known as the Sisters in the Fairway. This was, where was this at? Grandview Golf Club in York, Pennsylvania. And they were golfing. The people told them they were going too slow. They said, no, we're keeping up with the people in front of us. We can't jump in front of the people who are in front of us. We're playing with the pace. Basically, they called the police on them, said they're going too slow. They need to get off the course. The police came and didn't do anything. They just left. They were like, this is a personal matter. This isn't you calling the police. So that happened. You had the Native Americans at Colorado State, where I believe it was 2 Native American guys. They went to a museum or some type of event. They were late. They came and joined the tour, just kind of chilling in the back, watching, being silent. And somebody called saying, hey, these guys are here. They're dressed in black. They're being silent. Something is wrong. These brown people are, they weren't doing anything but joining this tour. Police were called on them. We recently had something at Yale, where a Yale student was studying. She was taking a nap in the library or I think it was a common area in her dorm.
This is the first one we've had with napping while black, right?
Right, napping while black.
Okay.
And a white student called the cops. She told her, you can't sleep in here, and called the police. And the police came, and they're asking her for ID, and they told her, we need to make sure you belong here. So she said, well, I don't want to give you my ID. I'll open my dorm door so you see that I belong here. But the fact that she's literally napping and a white girl called the police on her. It was also the Oakland barbecue, where the people were barbecuing outside at a park. And a white lady came over and said, hey, you're not supposed to barbecue here. They said, hey, this is a barbecue spot. She said, well, charcoal grills are not allowed. And she called the police on them because they were sitting as a family peacefully enjoying the park and barbecuing on a charcoal grill. So there are many other stories like this, but instead of doing it every single week, I just want to know, what do you guys think?
That one reminds me of that one where the lady complained because their smoke was going into her yard.
Yep.
Do you remember
yeah,
that?
We've seen that. Yeah, the barbecue smoke is there's smoke's coming over into my yard.
Property. Come on, and the cops actually told him to stop barbecuing.
Yep. So why do you think that calling the cops on black and brown folks has become America's favorite pastime?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it is. I think it's Well, first of all, because everybody's got a phone in their hands. 10, 20, when we were kids, you know, if you did some stupid stuff and some people saw you, you know, you had to go get a quarter and go walk down the street, go find a phone.
Hold on, sir. Before you answer this question, I'm going to need you to identify yourself. Is this alt-right Paul answering, or who is this?
It's just regular Paul, man. Just regular Paul. But I mean, like, so I mean, first of all, the technology is there, so you can record this stuff. You can all these things. I mean, upload on social media, so everybody can find out about these things. Second of all, I think we got in a culture where, you know, maybe it's after 9/11 with this whole, you know, if you see something, say something. That whole kind of like, you know, mentality where like, hey, this kind of looks out of place. This kind of looks weird. I don't know what's going on. I feel uncomfortable. Let me call. And now also on top of that, I've got a phone right here. I can just call up 911 with a touch of a finger, and I'm there. And so I think that's kind of led to the rise of this stuff overall. It's unfortunate, but I think that's just kind of the era we're living in right now with some of this stuff. I don't know how it's going to change. What about you, Ryan?
What's the solution?
Nope. I'm going to say it's happening because now these types of white people are now emboldened because they think / know that the police, the president, the senators, the congressmen, everybody is on their side. And that they can come out now and say, hey, it doesn't matter how ridiculous my claim is. They'll understand now. All black people should be beat up if they're doing anything a white person doesn't like. That's what they're doing. Don't be at a swimming pool, young ladies, having a party, because we're going to call the police. Don't take a nap. We're going to call the police. Don't walk across the street in the middle of the night that we'll say that you're jaywalking. We'll pull you over. No matter what you do, now as long as you're black when you're doing it, it's now illegal. That is why people are doing it. It's all about is from the presidency on down. All it did was like I said, put a magnifying glass on all the things that these types of people wanted to do anyway, and now they're doing even more. It's just the difference is we have social media now where we can tell each other that these things are happening.
Right. And have either of you had somebody call the police on you for something stupid?
Not since I was a kid, but can I tell you? Can I flip that and tell you something that happened recently where I wanted to call the cops? And I was thinking about,
oh my gosh.
This dude.
I don't even know if I want to hear this.
Did you call the cops on a black person?
No, the black delegation is safe on this one. So you know I live in the burbs, right? So so there's a park, and it's a park that only the people that in my little village or whatever can go to. So it's like it sounds fancy, but it's not that fancy. But anyway, you have to have like a little parking decal. I don't think anybody uses it. But there's a sign. There's like a little lake, and so I take the boy out there, and we go walking around on the little trails, just getting out some fresh air. And so there's a sign that says no fishing. And there was this family. I'm walking up there, and this like white mom with like 4 or 5 like young teenagers, like 13, 14. They all get out with fishing poles, and they get out there, and they're like playing loud music while they're rolling down with their mom, and the mom just drops them off and like lets them go fishing, and they kind of go like back in a little secluded area where you can't see them to go fishing. And it's like, on this like private little lake or like that. And I remember thinking like while I'm walking, like I should call the cops on them to get back to make some to get back some justice on them.
I should have made a citizen's arrest.
I didn't do it, but this was like 2-3 weeks ago. But I was thinking about you guys when I was doing this. I was like, man, I should call the damn cops. Tell them to come get these damn kids up out of here fishing in this damn lake, playing music and stuff because they had like the little, I don't know. It was like an iPod, but you could hear them like playing music off in the distance. I'm like, man, do I want to hear that mess out here? We're just trying to walk around with our kid, and just have a good time. But anyway, I didn't do it, but I thought about it.
Like, pardon me, Caucasian children, this is illegal. I am making a citizen's arrest. That's right.
If I didn't have the kid with me, yeah, maybe so. But but it crossed my mind for a second, and I kind of laughed to myself, like, yeah, that would be kind of funny. I did that.
Ryan, have you ever called the police on a black person?
No, I would never call the police on black people. I have thought about it before,
come on,
but I wouldn't do it because I don't want us to get shot, man, and I know how easily it escalates. You know what I'm saying? So I leave it alone.
But I
ain't talking about a crime.
You got to clarify that. You got to clarify that.
Not a crime, man. We talking about a situation like those park violations, those type of things. It's been plenty of times I've been somewhere. Once I was at the park with the little ones, and some teens was doing some things they shouldn't have been doing, smoking and drinking, and sexual things. And at the time I was just like, dang man, I can't come to the park. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing worse than going to the park when you think you're about to have a nice relaxing afternoon with the family, and you got to hear some trap music. Oh, I don't want to hear that trash.
Oh man, Ryan's back.
I don't want to hear it. On top of that other stuff, man. So there was a point where I was just like, like y'all need to stop. Like, don't do that now. Like, I don't know where you could do that at, but go over somebody's house in the basement and do that. But no, yeah. I would never call the police because I just don't want it to go wrong, man. I can't have that on my conscience.
Right, and that's crazy that's the mindset. I think maybe 8-9 years ago, I was living downtown St. Louis, and it's an interesting area because St. Louis is so, like, one block is really nice, the next block is trash, and so where I lived, I felt fine. Like, we never had any issues really, but literally a block away is where a guy carried ball, got shot by the police. I think they were coming to arrest him. He had a gun at first. He threw it down, had his hands up. They shot him and killed him. That literally happened around the corner. Well, anyway, one day, my wife and I were coming outside. I think we were headed to church, and we saw this black lady just like laying in the street. She's like laying down. She's halfway in the street. She's halfway on the curb, and she's like talking to herself. And it's just like really odd. So I'm like, man, I need to go see if this lady's okay. And my wife's like, no, don't do that, So she's like, you don't know what she's doing. So I'm like, no, I got to check on her. So I just drove the car next to her, and I'm like, hey, ma'am, are you okay? Is there anything I can do to help you? She's like, no, I'm fine. But she just was talking to herself and acting strangely. So at that time, I'm like, okay, I'm going to call the police because she's in the street. I don't want this lady to get run over. Clearly, she either on some drug or is having a mental health emergency. And it was kind of for the wellness. I called the police and told her, hey, I think this lady's having some trouble. Come check her out. I don't know what happened. I left after that. But that was about 9 years ago. I don't think I could do that today.
Yeah.
And it's mainly for the reasons that you said, because I don't want the police to come and escalate a situation that is unnecessary. Now, of course, if somebody is trying to kill somebody or somebody's trying to rape somebody or some violent, vicious crime, of course, we're going to call the police. But if it's something that's not that serious, I can't do it. I just can't risk it. And so it's interesting that we've gotten to a point where we feel like that as a society. And I don't even think you can change the law, because one idea I had was like, well, the police should punish people. If you call 911 for frivolous things, like something. You should get fined or you should get punished. Or
yeah.
But the thing is that I feel like in this country, they'll weaponize that against black people.
Only black people will get fined.
Right. And I was listening to this podcast where I talked about We Live Here. I was listening to their little 2-part episode, and there was a lady in Maplewood.
I listened to the part 1. I didn't listen to part 2 yet.
Yeah, well, I won't give too much away, but it's like this lady was a victim of domestic abuse, and she called the police a bunch of times. Well, they have this rule where if you call the police so many times, you can be declared a public nuisance.
Crazy.
And even though she was calling because she was getting beat up by her ex-boyfriend, They said, well, you called the police too many times, you got to get out of Maplewood. Like, that's crazy. So I feel like they're going to use that against black people, even if they make that type of law. So I don't even know what the solution is.
Ain't no solution. It's really not, man. The solution is the people with the problem. I think in a lot of these racial cases, the people that are racist are the problem. And until they realize they're a problem and or their cohorts, is that a good word? Maybe not cohorts.
Cohorts?
Yeah. If they start calling them out on it. It's really about social pressure. Everybody, like, we've gotten to a point now where to speak ill of gay people now in a derogatory fashion it's a faux pas. You don't do that under no circumstance. People will call you out on it. Now, that didn't used to be the case when we was in high school. People would just say stuff. And it kind of has to become that for racism. You out here being racist, white people, call out your cohorts. Like, hey, that's not cool. What are you doing? And shun those people. Not just, this dude, said something racist. Let me make you a plate. Like, no, get out of here.
Yeah, and I think we got to give credit to, because some of these situations that happened, the cops showed up and were like, this is stupid. I'm going to go home. This isn't my business. So shout out to those cops. I think the solution, we got to get more black what do you call it? Like 911 operators.
You think so?
We need more people at the switchboard to be like, man, you calling me on this bull? Get off the damn phone and click.
I love it. I don't think it's gonna work, but I love it.
Like, does the black man have a gun? Is he trying to kill you? No, he's doing what? He's drinking water.
Like, hold on, put him on the phone.
No.
Put him on the phone.
Right.
Be like, excuse me, sir. Like, they want to call the cops on you. What are you doing? They be like, oh, I'm just doing blah blah blah. Like, look, man, just relax. You're making white people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And, maybe they could get
turn your music down to a reasonable volume, and it'll all be good.
Yeah,
Then you'd say put her back on the phone, and then you go off on the white person. That's what needs to happen. So black people, if you're looking for a job, go sign up as a 911 operator, and let's end this pastime of calling the police on innocent black people.
Exactly.
Hey, you know what I've done, man? I don't know how this is going to tie into this story, but I'm going to say it anyway because I've been meaning to say it on the show. Should have put it in this week in Blackness, but I had one this week. So what I've been doing lately, and I noticed, man, I am taking all cues from Ryan Coogler, and I'm just not even trying to talk white no more. I'm just like, forget that. I'm at work the other day. I was on a phone call, on a conference call, and I was like, you know what? I said, that offer was trash. I was like, that settlement offer that you just made, it was trash. And I wouldn't have normally said that. You know, I would have said a lot more bigger words and legal terminology. I was just like, that's trash. And I don't like it. I don't change my inflection anymore. I don't do none of that. So I'm going to start just being more black and stop hiding it. Because white people don't care anyway. So I might as well just be myself while I'm working so hard.
Right. I mean, that's important to just be yourself, and I think that's a important part of accepting yourself, you know, is to stop trying to hide, stop trying to code switch, stop trying to talk more white, and just be comfortable in your own skin. Now, for some people, their normal conversational voice sounds quote-unquote white, and that's fine. But for people who talk one way at home and another way at work, now, obviously, there's certain words that you shouldn't be using at work.
Yeah, don't say that the settlement offer is trash.
Out everybody and all this.
I think at your job it's okay-ish because if you can wear a do-rag, you can probably say whatever you want there. It's all good.
Oh yeah, my job's good. I know y'all in a different boat than me, but yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
So okay. I don't know, but I don't want to extend this too much longer. So Ryan, we hopped over your story. Do you want to double back to it?
Yep, we're gonna swing back to it. And this one I titled "Not So Fabolous." I have noticed that Fabolous, the rapper, has some kind of way socially skated in the news recently. I listen to a lot of podcasts, you know, I'm watching my news feeds, et cetera, and nobody talked about Fabolous punching his girlfriend, longtime girlfriend. I thought they were married girlfriend. That's how long they've been together. In the face 7 times and knocking out all her front teeth. 7 times. This was not, I didn't see it discussed anywhere. And I had put it on the docket to talk about on the podcast at one point, and I took it off because I wanted to get a little bit more information. I don't always like to go with a story when it's super fresh because I just want to hear it just to make sure it's true, for one thing. But it's been, I don't know, how long has it been since that happened?
Probably about a month or so.
Okay. So it came up again because when I got ready to put it back on there and people were like, oh, we just saw Fabolous and his girlfriend at Coachella. And I'm like, what? First I was like, what is Coachella? But after that, because I was just, man, look, so I don't care, man. I don't care about no concerts. So that stuff is not hitting my radar. I don't care. I didn't know what Coachella was till Beyonce showed up. So I had to look it up and ask my wife. She's the music person in my house. So, yeah, so they showed up together. And again, I was like, okay, well, now to start hitting the news, you know, what are people saying about it? Still nothing. And I was listening to Joe Budden this week, his podcast, one of my favorite rappers, by the way. And dude was like, they were talking about him and his girlfriend showing up together at Coachella. And he said, and I quote, "This is why I didn't talk about that story. Because I knew this was going to happen." End quote. Something like that. And I guess maybe I should say I'm paraphrasing.
So you can't don't say quote it. Quote.
Don't quote it. Yeah. Paraphrasing. My bad. But yeah, I thought that was man, that's crazy. And I know they boys, so maybe he didn't want to speak out of turn on it. But man, at some point, that's not anything. I'm just gonna say right now, Ishmael, if you punched your wife in the face 7 times, bro, and knocked out all her front teeth, we're not cool no more. And I'm not gonna act like that didn't happen. Like, we need to try to get you some help, man. I need to talk to you or something. But after that, we're not gonna be cool.
Where you guys still will be cool. Defend it.
Not be cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't. If I did that, I wouldn't want nobody to be cool with me. Like, I would hope that my partners, my ride or die homies, would be like, you know, if we cool, they're gonna come and check me. Like, hey, we ain't about this. Like, we not about to stand for that. You need to get some help or whatever. So no, I wouldn't want you to be cool with me if I did something like that.
So, what do y'all feel, I guess, about, it's really deeper than just their situation, because I feel like if this is happening on a public stage like that this is happening all across America as far as when it does happen. And I'm not one to say that, all black men are beating their women or anything crazy like that. It's not like that.
But the Puerto Rican women, I'll add, I'll be seeking a...
Yeah, Brown delegation, you definitely should have talked about it.
Yeah.
You definitely should have talked about it. But I don't want these kind of things to be swept under the rug, and definitely not by men. I think it's something we should talk about, and that we should, demonize those people when it happens and try to get them some help, man, because they really do need help. And, my man shouldn't be going to Coachella with his girl and everybody just be like, oh, they'll be all right. Or, dang, that's her fault. She get what she get. No, it's not cool. What y'all think?
I definitely agree with what you're saying. But I will say in defense of this, I think this story did generate some buzz when it came out. And I know I listened to Joe Budden too, and I remember them distinctly were talking about this. I don't think Joe talked about it too much on a personal level. I think what you heard was when they had the sighting at Coachella. That
was just last week.
A month later. But after the story broke, they did talk about it, and he said, I remember at the time he was saying he didn't really want to get into it, but the other two guys,
not last week, maybe a few weeks ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. But when the incident first happened, where the video came out, where he was basically threatened, there was a video where he's outside of a car and he's threatening her brother and her dad, saying he's going to get the gun and come back and shoot them or something. At least that's what kind of was inferred, and that came out. The show did talk about it, and they did kind of if that's they said unequivocally that's wrong, things like that. But I think he said obviously they have a personal connection, they know each other, so he didn't want to speak too much on it, but he said it definitely was wrong and stuff like that. So I'll defend him on that. But yeah, man, I mean, what can you say, man? I mean, nobody knows what's going on in these households, but yeah, there's everybody, every family, everybody's going to argue and things like that. But hopefully there's a point where you just don't take it past, and if these allegations are true, it went way past that line. But I guess it's good for the family. I mean, you got to think there are kids in the house and things like that. So, if they've hopefully made amends, I guess that's good. But, that shouldn't absolve.
Still ain't good.
That shouldn't absolve what's going on with legally. There still could be a price to pay for him legally. I don't know I don't know how that's all gonna go down.
They said that she, I don't know what she said. She was gonna testify on his behalf. So
yeah, which is crazy, but I mean,
that's crazy, man.
That's man, come on, that's first of all, that's her the father to her children. Second of all, that's probably her primary source of income. I mean, I'm not saying it's right, but I can see there is a inherent desire to try to work it out on some level. You know what I'm saying?
That's Stockholm syndrome.
Maybe so. I'm gonna stay out of that one. I'll let you guys talk more on this issue.
Well, you can't stay out of it. We're not like we're not like these other podcasts, man. If it come up, we gotta talk about it. We talk about it. I mean, what you think, Ishmael?
Well, first of all, I mean, I think that Fabolous is trash if the allegations are true, and it seems like they are. I saw that TMZ video that you talked about where he's threatening the dad and threatening the brother, and he's making threatening motions towards her as well. So if you're doing that, and if she got her teeth knocked out, that's something that's been going on for a while.
Yeah,
that's something. Sure. It's not new. It's not a one-time thing.
Right.
So I'm gonna say he's trash.
If she take you back after punching her 7 times in the face, she probably took you back after what? You know what I'm saying? Right. Dang, how often is this happening? Why does she feel that is her only recourse is to just keep trying with this dude.
Well, with that, and again, I'm with Paul on this one, where I'm not really an expert on whatever battered women syndrome or Stockholm syndrome, but I know there have been a lot of studies that show just the trauma from this type of event makes it to where it's likely a lot of times for the women to go back. So I don't want to criticize her for going back. The thing is he needs to either go to jail or he needs somebody to come in and, I don't know, he needs to get right.
He needs somebody to punch him in the face 7 times.
Yeah, you know what he needs.
Well, that too.
Straight up.
The dad.
I'm just saying.
He needs to let that Puerto Rican dad bust him in the chops a couple of times, and then I'll be cool. The Brown delegation will be cool with it. But that the way that dude was talking reckless to that dad, which
ain't no answer for that, man. You know, if that happened to your sister or something, man, it's not gonna be cool. And that's even suburban Paul. You know what I'm saying?
Oh no, I'm with you, man. But I don't.
Yeah, I don't know how the dad and the brother didn't come back and hem him up after
right.
that. So I'm like, you talk that crazy, that reckless to me, like there's gonna be some reckoning.
Right.
But I think as far as the media goes, like Paul said, it was talked about in the media. I think we have so many crazy things that happen in the media. It wasn't a big story for long.
At least it didn't hit my
radar. Part of that is
he's not a big, he's big in hip hop and he's consistent, but he's not a, he's not a Jay-Z. He's not, he's not that level. I mean, he's definitely a great rapper, but he's just not that level. So I don't think it generated that much of a.
Right, and that's what I was going to say before Paul interrupted me. But no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, absolutely, he's a B-list celebrity, so it's just not going to generate the headline. When Bill Cosby stuff came up, he's Bill Cosby. Everybody knows who Bill Cosby is. He was a big, huge star, so it stayed in the news for a while. Even with the president, he's a huge star. Everybody knows him, so his stories have a little more staying power. With people like Fab, and especially, and I hate to stereotype, but this is how people look at it, he's a rapper. He's, people expect it out of him anyway. They're like, he's this B-list. He was a good rapper back in the day. Now he's just on whatever, Love and Hip Hop or one of these shows, and people don't expect a lot more of him. Yeah. Now, maybe that's an issue in itself, but I don't want to get into that. But, yeah, just his level of celebrity is, I think, why it wasn't talked about more.
Yeah, it's just sad, man. And I want anybody that may be listening, if you're going through this on a giver or receiver, physical touch ain't always affection. It should be, but it ain't always. And if you in those situations, man, get out. First of all, that person, if they do love you, they can't love you like you deserve to be loved. So you got to get out. If you feel like whoever you with is. Because a lot of dudes would like to say, well, they pushing me to that point. If somebody is pushing you to that point, you got to get out.
Dip.
Don't let it happen to you. I've been in a relationship where I was angry about some stuff and I was way too angry. Never been that angry before, man. It's time to go. I'm out. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
I'm out. I'm not going to put myself in that position ever. And if you in that, please get some help. And that help is leaving first. And then, you can get counseling or whatever you need to get before it gets too bad, because those relationships don't end well. You don't all of a sudden they were beating me for 80 years. The only way it's going to end well is if they taking care of you on your deathbed, on your sick bed.
I won't say be for every story, but yeah, I mean, hopefully this is just an isolated incident. I don't know. I suspect it wasn't if he's hitting her that many times and allegedly breaking teeth and the way that dude was talking reckless to the dad, but I just realized when there's kids involved, it takes on a whole different dynamic. These are the kind of things you got to sort out before you decide to lay down and have kids with these people. But once you pass that, then then I'm not saying I'm excusing it, but I can understand why at least why they're trying to work it out, because that's they got to think about the kids in that day. Especially
when this dude didn't even marry you. But that's another story too, man.
And that's why they have laws like, where did this happen? Was this New York or this Newark? Where was this at?
They live in New York, but I don't
know.
Whatever.
Jersey.
Okay, so that's why places like Jersey have laws like that, because you all said that she is going to appear in court on his behalf. So if it was up to her, she would drop the charges. Yep. But because this happened and they have laws against domestic violence, they don't need her cooperation to prosecute him. So a lot of places have laws like that, which I think is a good thing. Not all places do. Like some, if the battered partner decides, hey, I don't want to press charges, they'll just drop them. Right. But then you get people in situations like this where the guy, or if it's a woman who's the better, they apologize, they spit their little sweet talk, and the person relents and accepts it, and then it happens again, and it's just an endless cycle. So it's good to have those type of laws, and like you said, you should never physically abuse your partner, whether it's man, woman, man, whatever. You don't need to put your hands on somebody. If you that mad, go take a walk. Right. Go leave. But to beat up somebody or threaten somebody, right, go find somebody else.
Break up with somebody, man.
Go find somebody else. But at the same time, my heart goes out to anybody who's battered and anybody who's trapped in that type of situation. And I just would hope that they have the courage to do what they need to do, and they have that self-esteem or self-awareness to know that this ain't the only person for you. A lot of people feel like, well, this is the only person. They accept my flaws, whatever. No, he ain't accepting your flaws if he beating you up.
Beating you. Yeah, so he don't accept it.
You gotta get that self-confidence. You gotta get that self-awareness, and just have that bravery to say, okay, I don't know what's next, but I know this ain't right. This not for me. This not for my kids. I got to get out of here. So,
and for our men, know that you trash if you're doing this. Like, for real, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm trash. I shouldn't be thinking this way. It's not okay and it's not right. Whether or not somebody is saying it's not right. You trash and you got to do something about that. Be a man, you leave. She ain't got to make you go. Even if she want to come back, don't. Because it shouldn't happen.
Yep. So if Fab did it, if he guilty, lock him up. I don't want no probation. Lock him up.
Yes, sir. All right. Moving on to the next topic. It's going to be a weird segue that is probably inappropriate.
That's the last topic.
It's not the last topic.
We got
one more.
Yeah.
But
I forgot about this.
The only beatings that you should be receiving is from your grandma. Your grandma can give you a beating anytime she wants to, especially when you're living herself. So, Paul, this was your story, and this is where we going to talk about to wrap this up, man. Inappropriately segued, but it's in your court. Go ahead.
Sure. Okay, so this story comes to us from Daytona Beach, Florida. A 95-year-old grandmother, Hattie Reynolds, was arrested last Saturday.
Name.
Yeah, it's a granny named Hattie.
Anybody named Hattie, shout out.
Was arrested for slapping her granddaughter, her 46-year-old granddaughter, I should add, in the face with a slipper. Before calling 911 to tell her to get the granddaughter out of the house. The grandmother called 911, was complaining about the granddaughter basically laying in bed all day, and, quote, was tired of her staying in bed all day, soaking up all the air conditioning, which is the blackest, grandmotherist excuse ever. And so I guess when the cops showed up, to kind of like break it up or, escort the granddaughter out of the house or whatever, I guess the grandmother hit her in the face with the slipper. And so since she did that in front of the cops, that was the cause for the arrest or what have you. And so they have these domestic violence laws. And so she had to spend a night in jail. The sheriff said, I remember reading the article, they said that, they treated her as best they could because, they recognized that she was 95 years old. But yes, she did have to spend a night in jail. And so she kind
of... That's a travesty.
Kind of a bit of celebrity about that. And yeah, it's definitely a travesty. So, I mean, we won't talk about how crazy this is, but I just to make it lighthearted, we've had several heavy topics on the show today. So maybe we can all just kind of talk about like what's the worst or the funniest beating you've ever had when you were a kid from one of your relatives. Doesn't have to be your mother, but can be your grandmother or neighbor, whoever it was. So I guess maybe just open up with one of you guys. Do you guys have anything to share here?
I guess I will go first. All right.
So I sense some hesitation on your part.
Right.
Yeah, because I was just debating whether or not I want to go first. Story will remain the same. So once as a teen, this is during my high school days, probably I don't know, junior or senior year, when a boy becomes a man, and there come times in your life when you got to stand up to oppression. And I felt that my impression was that me and my sister, although I did all the other manly chores around the house, my sister and I split the dishes down the middle. And I happened to have Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, which is not down the middle. And she had to do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and my mother did them on the weekends. So I was like, you know what? I'm about to stand up to this oppression. I'm not doing it. So I told my mom, I ain't doing it. Now, my mom, being a good mother, happy Mother's Day, Mom. I know she's not listening, but, happy Mother's Day anyway. She did all she could. She told me, no, I'm going to make you walk to school. And Ishmael, I walked all the way from my house, bro, all the way to Luther North. So, that's far as heck. She made me walk. I had to walk home. Luckily, I think I caught a ride with like John Schreiber or something to get me to Bell North. So it was rough. And but I put up with it because I was like, look, I'm going to outlast her because she'll know I'm serious about this. So, we would get into it. It was not bad because I was never disrespectful to my mother. But I went downstairs talking to her in her room. And I was just telling her how I felt about it. And she was telling me, well, you gonna wash the dishes? And I'm just like, I'm not. And next thing I know, with the speed of the flash, my mother picked up
the combo.
She picked up, I don't know, man. I think she had a hanger and a shoe, a high heel shoe.
Oh, combination.
And she hit me with the combo of the speed I had never seen in my life. And when you a teenage boy, you know how we used to do in high school. People would try to flinch you all the time, so you can't be flinching and jumping. So most of the time, we were just standing hard because you never really knew. And my mother hit me so many times so fast. Like 10 times. And slapped me in the face. And I was like, what just happened? And I think I was like, why did you? I was like, what? I was like, what happened? Why did you hit me? And she was like, you balled up your fist. And I said, what? I said, I didn't ball up my fist. And she said, I saw it. She said, your hand twitched and you balled up your fist. I was like, I don't play that. So my fist, I don't remember what happened, but if you're talking and it's, you kind of hype, your fist might ball up. But at no point in time was I would hit my mama, but she don't play that. So she put me down.
Yeah. You know how they talk about old man strength, you also got to talk about motherly reflexes.
Speed.
They be on point.
Oh man, that was great. That was the highlight of this whole entire run of this podcast right there. Ish, can you top that? Can you top that or come close? I don't know about that.
I can't top it with a mother or family story. I'll tell you another story in a second, but I can't really top it because for me, when I was young, my mother, I didn't get a lot of whoopings. I would get whoopings, but the thing is if I got a whooping, usually it was something I was doing with my brother. My brother was 3.5 years older, so we were getting whoopings together for some mess that we did. And I discovered very early on, because she would whip him first because he was older. So I discovered early on that when she whipped him, if I started crying hard enough, that would save my own behind. So, we would do whatever. We'd go get into something we shouldn't have been into or be somewhere we shouldn't have been. And she'll come home. She'll be like, go upstairs. I'm going to be up there with my belt. And so we up there like, oh, man. So she would whip him first. And my brother was gangster. Like, he always was just gang. Like, he would just take the whoopings. Like, hey, whatever. I don't care.
He was like a Denzel Washington Glory.
Right. He was like Denzel Washington. Yeah. And so he would just be taking the whoopings. And me, I would just, like, in the beginning, I would just sit there and try to take it like that. And after a couple smacks, I start crying and she good. Well, after that, I just start, as soon as she started whooping him, I just start wailing. I'm just, And so it came to a point my mother would look at me after she got done whooping him and it was like, well, he's already crying anyway. So she might pat me on the butt one time and she would leave. Now, the problem with that, because I thought I got away and I'm like, ha, 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 I didn't get no whooping. Well, then my brother was mad because he just got whooped for something we both did and I didn't. So he would beat me up anyway. So I ended up taking the L regardless, but for me, I'd rather get punched in the face once or twice instead of just getting bent over my mama's knee with a belt. The story I will tell you about, the worst whooping that I had, and I try to be brief with it. I was in 3rd grade, And I used to fight a lot. I used to fight like all the time, like every day. And I just had a quick temper. It could be kickball, it could be basketball, whatever. We argue, hey, I'm throwing hands. So there was one day, there was this fat dude, I forget his name, and he was a sixth grader, same grade as my brother. And we got to arguing about something, and I'm like, man, I'm going to whoop your fat butt, blah, 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 blah. And so he was like, what's up then? Well, let's do it. I'm like, cool. So I live in this little townhouse apartments. So I walk up the steps to his porch, and I'm like, what's up, fat boy? And I hit him in the face. Pow! And I step back because I was so gangster with it. Like, my hands were so nice. When I hit people, I was used to them falling or crying or something. So I hit him once, and I stepped back, and he just looked at me. It, like, had no effect on him whatsoever. So dudes, like, slapped the mess out of me with an open hand. Pow! Kicked me in my stomach and pushed me in the bushes next to his house. So I'm like crying. I'm like embarrassed. I done got whooped. So I run down the stairs to my brother, and I'm like, man, go get him. And my brother like, no, this your fight. You started that with him, so you go back up there. And like I say, I'm more embarrassed than I am hurt. But I'm just like, man, my brother like, hey, you can't be no punk. Like, you know what's gonna happen when we get home if you don't go back and fight him. So I'm like, dang. So I wipe off my tears. I go back up to the dude. He's still standing on this porch. Before I could even hit him, this time he kicked me in the stomach. No, he slapped me in the face again, kicked me in my stomach. This time he slammed my head into his brick wall of his apartment.
Dang.
Pushed me in the bushes again. So this time I'm like for real hurt. Like, I got a scratch on my face. I'm crying. I run back down the hill, down the steps to my brother. And I'm just like, go get him, go get him. My brother like, He's like, this your fight. I told you, you wanted to talk like you could whoop him. You do this. You nice with your hands. And, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but he like, this your fight. You got to go get him. So the boy went in the house. And so he went in the house. My brother like, no, we not going. You better go back and get him. So I will up my courage, and I go knock on his door. Boom, 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 boom. I'm like, come back out here. Come back out here. And, back then, we talking about the 80s, mothers would be like, hey, you better go back out and fight him. This boy ain't going to be ringing on my doorbell, knocking on my door. You better go out there and handle that. So he came back outside reluctantly. I tried to swing at him again.
I'm tired of whooping you, man.
Right. I tried to swing at him again. I think I missed. He grabbed my head again, slammed it into the wall, pushed me I think he tried to push me in the bushes, but I ended up just kind of falling off the porch. And I'm crying again. I run back down to my brother, and I'm just crying. I'm like, I'm not going back up there. So my brother this time walks up the steps, and him and this dude are the same age. Walks into the steps, hits the dude one time. The dude start crying and went in the house. And I'm like, dude, if you would have did this 10 minutes ago,
I would have these 3 concussions.
You would have saved me a lot of pain and embarrassment. But I had to learn my lesson, you know what I'm saying? You can't write checks that you can't cash. So that was my lesson in humility. So shout out to my brother for teaching me that, and he ended up protecting me at the end, or going back and, getting that get back for me. But that's the worst whooping in general that I've ever taken, but it wasn't from a relative.
All right, well, let me be brief.
So what
and tell
about
mine
you,
real
Paul?
Quick. Yeah, let me tell mine. So this is in like 6th grade, you it should sound like you were a little rougher. Ryan, we know you were a goody two shoes. Me, I was a dumbass my whole life. I still am. So I was always doing dumb stuff or hanging out with dumb people. But when I was like in 6th grade, I had a friend. They were brothers. My boy named Chris and my boy named Brian. So they were brothers. And Chris was a real smart dude. That's who I mostly hung out with. He was my age. And Brian was a little bit younger than us, like maybe 2 years ago. But like Chris and Brian were much, much bigger. Like I'm not a big dude, but decent size. But these dudes were definitely much, much bigger than I were. Had me by 50, 60 pounds when we were kids. So they were always much bigger, and they were tough dudes. But cool. And so but Brian was always kind of like a little hell raiser. And so man, one night, I was like a Friday night or something like that. We're like in 6th grade, we ain't got nothing to do. And so we just got kind of out, and man, for whatever reason, he had like a can, like an aerosol can and a lighter. And he was like, just, showing us how to do a flamethrower. And we were over at his house, and we were going to go over to like somebody else's house or whatever like that. And it was just kind of nighttime. We were going to do whatever. And he had been doing this little flamethrower, the whole day. We were hanging out, and I was like, and he was like, man, I'm going to bring this over there. We're going to, because I think we were going to sleep over somewhere or something like that. But anyway, I was like, man, don't bring that mess. And I kept telling him, like, don't bring that mess, man. We don't need that. Like that, we don't, we just gonna go, do whatever, hang out, whatever, like that. But we, don't bring that. So I kept telling him. And his brother was kind of like, yeah, don't bring that. But he brought it anyway because you couldn't really tell him nothing. He was a big dude. So like, what we gonna say? So he brought it anyway. So then, man, we out that night, like in the streets or whatever, like that. And he's just kind of, playing, setting off here and there. And there just happened to be like, I think it was like a mailbox. It was some kind of like pipe or something like that. I think it was like a newspaper chute. But anyway, he put it in there and just blew the flamethrower in there. And he had done it a couple other times somewhere and didn't do anything. But this time, for whatever reason, I guess like the wind was blowing back the other way. So it blew the flame back onto his hand. And so the can caught fire. And his hand caught fire. And man, so like he threw the can, we thought it was going to explode. We all ran away, and stuff like that. But luckily it didn't explode. But his hand, he had like 3rd-degree burns on his hand.
Yikes.
And so we had went to go spend the night at some friend's house, right? So we just kind of like, man, come on, let's just go back to whatever our boy's house and just, man, we'll figure. We thought it wasn't that bad. We were like, oh, whatever, we'll just go back. So we go back, to other dude's house, not to Chris O'Brien's house. And we try to just settle down because it probably was like midnight. We were out way past when we should have been. But the pain was too bad for him, and I think I dozed off. But I think I woke up in the middle of the night, and I think he had left and went back home to tell his mom, because he needed to go to the emergency room, and he had to go to the emergency room. And so growing up, like my boy Chris and Brian, like their mom and my mom were cool, and they knew each other and stuff like that. But so I would always be over there hanging out with them and stuff like that. But anyway, so long story short. So Brian needed he didn't need skin grafts, but he needed he was in a lot of pain. He had to have it wrapped and all this stuff like that. But it was like 2nd or 3rd-degree burns on his hand, so it was pretty messed up. And his mom was definitely pissed because she had to take him down to the emergency room 2 a.m. and all this stuff like that. So the next morning we had to go back over there to take Chris because Chris did not want to go back. He was scared, so we well, we'll go with you, whatever like that. So we went back over there with him. And man, his mom was just sitting there waiting for us. And so she read us the riot act. But so I'm sitting there thinking man, I told this dude, do not bring the thing. So I think I'm thinking hey man, I told him not to bring the thing. He knows I told him not to bring the thing. So we sitting there and I'm thinking okay, well, yeah, it's kind of messed up, but how's this going to impact me? So my and so again, keep in mind that my boy Chris and Brian, they're much bigger than I am. They're probably 50, 60, 70 pounds heavier than I am. I'm little compared to them. I'm lanky, but I'm little compared to them in size. And so their mom did not play. Their mom was serious business too. And so man, and so her mom reads us the right act. She talking about she's gonna call the police on us, all this stuff like that. And I'm like their friend. I obviously live over there and stuff like that. So I'm like, man, I'm straight. But I kept telling her, I told him not to bring that stuff. So man, she called. It's like me. We already knew Chris was gonna get beaten. But it was like me and another dude, and so she over there with Chris and trying to just explain the story, blah blah. That it was Brian's own dumb fault. Man, my mom, this lady picks up the phone, calls my mom, and I'm thinking she's like I'm gonna settle this right now. So I'm like, man, she's not gonna do nothing. What can happen? She calls my mom and asks for permission to beat my.
Wow!
And my mom gives it to her.
Say yes. Wow!
That's the longest phone call in the world.
Man,
You
I'm
listen
saying,
like what?
Dog, I'm sitting there in the living room or whatever like that. I'm just sweating. I'm thinking man, how am I everybody's vouching for me and saying he said not to bring this stuff. I was the only person saying don't bring it. Just for whatever reason, I just said don't bring it. Even though I was doing dumb stuff, but I was like don't bring that. And so it didn't matter, man. So man, that was the longest phone call, and she was like, "Your mom says it's okay." She said, "Your mom said I can light that up." So she just took me in the back. I mean, but the way she did it was crazy because I'm standing in front of my two friends, and Brian wasn't there no more. He had, maybe he was at the hospital or whatever like that. But in my two friends, man, she just took us back there one at a time. Called our parents, took us back there in the back in her bedroom, and just beat on us and we couldn't do that. And you could at least with your own mom you can kind of wriggle away or something like that. I couldn't do nothing, so I'm just stuck.
What was her rod of choice to beat another person's kid? Did she use the belt?
I want to say? I want to say it was like a measuring stick, one of those wooden measuring sticks that you you sew with or something like that. I think
like
that's
a yardstick. Yeah,
man. So man, she went back there and look, like I said again, keep in mind that her boys were 50, 60 sets. So she's taking out the same anger and the same pressure with them on my little narrow butt. So man, she's wearing me out, dog. And I'm like, and it was so miserable. And then she beat her son.
Was
Chris.
she Puerto Rican?
No, just black lady.
Okay, all right. Shout out
Man,
to
but
Black
so
Delegate.
man, but she just lit us on fire, man. I'm like, yo, man. It was cool, and so like it's funny. Like I still see her every now. Like I saw her at finally Chris got married like I don't know 4 or 5 years ago or something like that. So I went back there. I hadn't seen her in like 20 years, and so I'm introduced to my wife and we talking. And man, one of the first stories she talks about is like, oh yeah, I remember when I had to tear your ass. So to this day, like we just got that bond. It was cool, but man, Kathy, you laid into me, you tore me up.
Hey, them was the worst whoopings when your friends' moms beat you. You knew that was gonna be the worst, and that's something that was definitely like a 80s type of thing and maybe before then too. I'm sure 70s, 60s. That whole it takes a village mentality where,
we need
back in the day, even before us, our parents, they neighbors didn't even have to call your mama. Like, they just had the okay already. Just like, oh, if you see them do something bad, go and get them.
Oh, and before I forget, the other part. So when I get home, like my mom didn't go into me too bad, but my mom got me again too. My mom they double teamed on me.
Right.
Oh man.
I think she slapped me upside the back of the head, and she was like, and she tore me up a little bit more. Not as bad as the first time, but yeah, man, it was. And I literally did not do nothing, and I literally told this dude, do not bring that mess. But anyway, yeah, that was
Don't
a
matter.
wild night.
Guilty by association.
Guilty by association. But yeah, hey man, I probably at some way, on some level, I probably did deserve it. But yeah, man, it's just one of those crazy.
We know you. We know you well enough to know that you deserved it. You may not have done everything, but you did something.
For sure.
Right. All right. Enjoyed that conversation. Some stories I didn't know.
But whoopings.
Yeah. So
those are good old days. Can't do that no more. You get a little tap, and that's about it.
Hey, we need to though, man.
It's probably a good thing.
No, it ain't. I think we need to go back to it.
No.
We need that.
That's another conversation. That's another podcast.
Yeah. At least the fear of it. We need that, but we don't have it. But anyway, all right. So let's see. It's been a productive episode, I think. Minus G. He did appear one time. He did say rule. I don't know if he texted y'all back. He did say 2 words, but whooping. But other than that, we'll have to get his story. Maybe he probably got some good story.
Yeah, we got to get his butt whooping story because I know his mama and I know that she tore that butt up.
She give out some good ones.
Yeah, okay. Man. So we'll get his for y'all next week.
Okay. All right. So maybe we should call him and have him record his own on his own time and send it to me. That would be cool.
Yeah, maybe. He's out with his mom anyway today, so that can be part of his This Week in Blackness. Next week we'll have an extended one. We'll get the butt whooping story too.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Where can they find us, Ishmael?
Yo, you can find the Black Delegates podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Black Delegates. There is an underscore between Black and Delegates. And as we were recording, and I talked about this before, about my mother was going to be like our biggest listener. Well, she never saw my Facebook invite for the pod.
Oh,
but
she
when
just
I talked
liked
to her
it.
today,
I just saw it.
yeah, when I talked to her today, I was like, yo, I got to do this podcast. She was like, podcast? And I was like, okay, here it comes. So I told her about it again. So she followed us on Twitter. So shout out to my mama because she is going to be a big presence now. I'm just warning y'all.
Yeah, she liked us on Facebook. I saw it.
Yep. And she did Twitter. So she's going to be all over there. Anyway, back to where you can follow us. Also, we are on Facebook, like Ryan just mentioned. We are at Black Delegates Pod on Facebook. If you want to follow Ryan on Twitter, he is at The Black Ryan. I am at Ish Creates. That's ISH Creates. Ryan, if people want to listen to the podcast, if they're hearing this, if somebody just saved it and sent it to them, where can you listen?
You can find us everywhere. We are on Apple Podcasts. We are on Google Play, Podbean, I don't know, podcast in your pocket, whatever the podcast feed thing.
Stitcher.
Out. Yeah, Stitcher. We are on Stitcher. Whatever you use to find your podcast, we probably on there at this point. I have submitted us to Spotify, so we should be on there soon. So you really ain't got no excuse. If you want to listen, you can. If you don't, you probably ain't. But that's all right. Listen to it anyway.
We out here. And all the listeners, we do appreciate you. Like Ryan always says, make sure you share, make sure you follow,
Please
make sure
rate
you
us.
subscribe, make sure you rate, and we appreciate all the support. Any comments that you got? I know also my father-in-law, he followed us today, so that's another one. Shout out to him. And as far as the podcast, Ryan, do you have a podcast that you want to pump up? If not, I do have one ready to go.
I don't, but I will also want to add that, hey, if y'all ever have any topics or questions or anything like that, you can actually just direct message me on Twitter if you don't want it to be public, or you can @me me on Twitter, and I will find a way to put your question in if I think it's a good question. If it's not, I will delete it.
Yeah,
promise.
Any of us,
but I'll keep it. Yeah, I'll keep it anonymous though. I won't put your name in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we also like to do a little thing where we shout out a black or brown podcast or business. Now, I'm going to have to start putting these in the show notes because sometimes I forget which ones I've talked to you two about personally and which ones I bumped on the show. So this one, it could be a repeat, but if so, this is one of my favorite podcasts, so I don't care. This one is Code Switch. This is an NPR podcast with Shireen Marisol Meraji and Gene Demby. They talk about, basically similar to what we do, but they really drill into like one story in the news that just has to deal with black and brown perspective. They talk about a lot of things from that. So I listen to Code Switch all the time. Like I said, that's one of my top 5 favorite podcasts for sure. So I want to shout them out. We will put a link to them in the show notes, and that'll help me track who we've shouted out and help you to find their podcast. So shout out to them over at NPR and at Code Switch Pod.
Yeah, I definitely got to check that out because I did listen to an episode or two. It was good. I just didn't, for whatever reason, follow back up. You know how that is sometimes. Yep. So I'll put them back on my list and listen to them tomorrow.
Good deal. Yeah, they got some good episodes. I listened to them on the way down to Kentucky.
Okay. All right. Paul, anything for the Brown delegation?
I got nothing. I'm on vacation next week, fellas. So, so might not see me might not hear from me next week, but that's probably a good thing. I don't want Mama to have to drop off because she's annoyed by my voice. At least the first week. At least give her 2 weeks and then she can drop off. But
it don't matter. She gonna go listen to like all the episodes in like one sitting.
Probably.
She's gonna develop a deep hate for me already.
Yeah,
I like
she's gonna love you or hate you off the flip. So we'll see. We gotta see which one it is.
She's gonna call my mom and ask if she can beat me.
Who is this Paul and who is his mama?
I need to know.
All right. So with that being said, appreciate y'all listening. Likes and shares. Like I said, rate us, review us. We always appreciate it. Those 2 reviews that I did see on Apple Podcasts, we appreciate y'all. Thanks so much. Share it with your friends and make sure that they review it if you know somebody that's listening to it. And otherwise, we will see you next week.
Deuces.
I don't think I want to say peace no more. Man, why you keep got to say stuff like Gay Brian, man?
What?
Alt-right Ryan right there.
Like Gay Brian from Family Guy. But all right. Okay. I got to
forever.
figure out a new
Wakanda
outro.
forever.
What am I going to say? Yeah, Wakanda forever.